After trading away Pascal Siakam, the Raptors front office is embracing some huge changes for 2024, but what might these changes actually look like, and is this the right vision for this team? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Hour Sports, everybody, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis in videos just like this, as well as live stream watch parties for every Raptors game. If you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you do hit that like button. Let's try to get to 250 likes on today's video, and for more Raptors coverage just like this, make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports. You can help the channel on the road to 17,000 subs and get all this great content. But today we're going to be breaking down and analyzing Masai Ujiri's post press conference in the wake of trading Pascal Siakam away to the Indiana Pacers, and also a little bit his first real media appearance since the Raptors traded away OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks. And this Pascal Siakam trade really signaled and ushered in a brand new era in Toronto, because even with that OG Anunoby trade, you're still hanging on to that core of the past with Pascal Siakam. And even with that OG trade, we brought in two players who are immediately helping this team, and in theory are going to be helping this team for years to come, with RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. But with this Pascal Siakam trade, this team is starting completely fresh, completely starting anew, and there is a blank canvas here for the front office of the Raptors to work with for the 2024 year and beyond. So what we got from this press conference from Masai Ujiri was really an open and mostly honest assessment of what the Raptors had done in the past 2 or 3 years. We finally got some real details and explanations behind some of the perhaps more interesting decisions associated with where the Raptors have had some deficiencies over the last couple of seasons. Last season, the Raptors finished with a 41-41 record, which doesn't really sound that bad. I mean, there's probably a number of NBA teams and a number of NBA fan bases who would love to have a team that goes 41-41. Raptors fans are disappointed about it, but it felt like that team had fallen short given the investment into it going into the season. And it very much felt as though that team fell short of expectation when they were a buying team at the deadline and acquiring Jakob Poeltl in exchange for a first-round pick, which is still affecting them to this day. It is a 2024 top 6 protected first-round pick that, yes, maybe the Raptors could end up using this season, but likely will not be using this season. But also this season, things really have not gotten any better for the team. We were expecting to be a competitive team at the very least, one at least challenging for a playoff position, and the Raptors at the time of recording are 10 games under 500. So it really felt as though now was really the time to usher in a new era. At least that's the case for the front office. It was pretty apparent to Raptors fans for the last 13, 14 months that this core needed something new. It needed to start fresh, and it never really was going to pan out here. But Masai Ujiri really revealed a lot of raw emotions he has for his players within this press conference, where you got the sense, you really got the feeling. Masai Ujiri loves the players that represent him, and he loves the players that represent this organization. And perhaps he loves these players to a fault. He believes in them too much. So when everybody in the Raptors fan base is looking at the people involved here and saying, this is going nowhere, this is just not going to work. Meanwhile, the front office is busy investing in that team. It's a lot of the reason is they just truly believe in these guys, and it is a little bit to a fault sometimes. They can't truly assess the player pool that they have within, and that's why they go out of their way and make a trade that still puzzles NBA media to this day with that Jakob Poeltl trade at the 2023 NBA trade deadline. Now, what's also puzzling about some decisions that have gone on for the Raptors is perhaps the handling of the Pascal Siakam situation. The Raptors recouped a little bit of assets in trading him to the Indiana Pacers here. 3 not-so-stellar first-round picks, along with Bruce Brown, who looked great in his Raptors debut, and Jordan Nwora and Kira Lewis, who, even despite the depth issues for the Raptors, still could not get into the rotation. I don't imagine they will at any point during the season, but not a great return package for a player who is coming off of an all-star season, who's been on the all-star team twice, who's been an all-NBA member twice. Not as much of a significant return for the Raptors. You look at DeJounte Murray, who Pascal Siakam is a superior player to. Even DeJounte Murray fetched 3 first-round picks in a trade. So there was a mishandling of assets once again from the Raptors front office. At least in this case, it didn't cost them losing the player for nothing like they did with Fred VanVleet just 6-8 months ago when he went to the Houston Rockets in free agency. But there was a mishandling of assets there. Masai Ujiri tried to describe it as They didn't know what they had yet with Scottie Barnes. They weren't sure that there was going to be a leap this season and didn't want to put all their marbles in the Scottie Barnes basket before actually seeing what he could look like this season, and therefore didn't want to lose Siakam and then not really have a recovery plan and process. But the way Masai Ujiri has spoken about Scottie Barnes and spoke about him all through the offseason, has spoke about him over the years, and the way Raptors fans in general have been speaking of him because he's a phenomenal player, would indicate that they had a lot of belief in the player still. And even in the summer, it was very apparent that Masai Ujiri did not have Pascal Siakam in his long-term plans with the team. So why wait this long? Why go through this entire process here with Pascal Siakam and neglect conversation with him for 6 to 8 months before trading him away for a lesser trade than you probably could have gotten 6 months before or even 12 months before if you had traded him at the 2023 trade deadline? Masai Ujiri at least owned up to his poor handling of this situation in communication with Pascal. Didn't own up to waiting too long to make the trade, but did own up that he probably disrespected Pascal Siakam a little bit with the lack of communication conversations that went on with him since the offseason. So fair enough, at least addressing that in that circumstance. So did a good job of assessing where things went wrong and at least partially owning up to them. But Raptors fans, especially myself, have become very frustrated with this front office. Obviously, we respect the hell out of Masai Ujiri and his team for being able to put together an NBA championship roster seemingly from almost nothing. Like the way he started with, this team was a complete mess. Yes, they had DeMar DeRozan as a foundational piece to get started with, but the amount of moves, the amount of work, the amount of development, the amount of draft picks that had to go into making that championship roster was nothing short of like damn near of a miracle for this team to actually get Toronto to an NBA championship, something that perhaps 10 years ago Raptors fans thought would be absolutely impossible. Now Masai Ujiri and this front office are starting with that blank canvas, as I mentioned. Masai Ujiri said that the team is really resetting here, so it's time for the front office to show up. Like, we've had the troubles the last few years. There's been the mishandling of assets, the number of players that have left for either nothing or less than they should have. You know, you have Fred VanVleet who leaves for nothing, Serge Ibaka who leaves for nothing, Marc Gasol who leaves for nothing. Kyle Lowry, yes, he doesn't leave for nothing, but you could have gotten a much better trade package for him at that trade deadline rather than the sign and trade in the offseason. Yes, you got something out of Pascal Siakam, but you could have got a lot more for him had you acted sooner. The OG situation, I'm not really sure they could have done much better with that one given the situation, so we'll give them a big check mark for that one, especially right now the way Quickly and Barrett look with the Raptors. But overall, there's been a mishandling of assets. There's been overbelief in a core that everybody recognized was not warranted in having that belief from the front office or anybody for that matter. So it's really time for the Raptors front office to put up here, to make good on who they think they are and make good with this core. Now, it's going to be a process here, absolutely. The Raptors are starting completely almost brand new here, but what a lot of teams in this rebuilding phase, in this retooling phase, what they don't have, they're searching out for draft picks to find the foundational piece, to find the centerpiece of the rebuild to work with going forward. The Raptors have a head start there. They have that piece. They have that centerpiece. Scottie Barnes is already on this team and is already looking like he could be an all-star player in year 3. It looks as though he will be almost guaranteed an all-star at some point or another in his NBA career. They have that piece to work with going forward. They now have a bit of draft assets to work with, and they have some plans in mind for what they want to do going forward. So it's very clear, loud and clear, Scottie Barnes is the centerpiece of this team going forward. So the front office finally needs to showcase something. Give us some sort of hope that they can continue to do a good job with this team, because the past year, 2 years, hasn't really provided a ton of faith that they can be the ones to do this job. So 2024, as much as this team won a championship, yes, outstanding. Like, I do not want to put a damper on what an achievement that is for the city of Toronto, but this feels like the biggest year ahead for this front office. A new challenge is in place here. And if they want to start convincing Raptors fans that they're the right people for this team to put this team back where we want it to be, challenging for top-tier playoff positions, starting to get back into that contention phase, we can be patient. We can be patient. We are patient for a very long time for that NBA championship. We can continue to be patient, but we need to see results slowly start to trickle in here. We can't just be flatlined here. We've been flatlined for a couple of seasons now. We need to start to see some sort of results in place here that Raptors fans can get behind. So what is that going to look like? What are the Raptors and the front office going to have to do to make that happen? For starters, keep on putting the right players around Scottie Barnes. Start to fill out the shooting maybe a little bit more, but now an emphasis needs to put on defense. Didn't think we'd have to come to this with the Raptors, but there's a distinct lack of defense here. It's not going to happen this season, probably not before the trade deadline. This season's going to be a little bit of a wash here just to see what we have, but in the offseason, work on bringing in defensive players to this team. Work on continuing to add in the spacing to this team. Maybe some more ball handlers to this team. And there's some certain assets with the Raptors. Yes, they have 3 picks for the upcoming draft. They have the Pacers pick this year. They have one of either the Clippers or Thunder pick, in all likelihood, a late first-round pick, and a very early second-round pick from the Detroit Pistons to use. 3 new players potentially coming to the team. Maybe they flip Bruce Brown and get another pick. 4 picks this year. Maybe they get lottery, like end up in the bottom 6 and have their own pick this year. 5 picks this year. But even with the current 3 picks actually in place for this team, Masai Ujiri in that press conference alluded to the fact that he seriously doubts they use all 3 draft picks this season, probably highlighting the Raptors want to package those or package 1 or 2 of those to move up in the draft and get a superior draft pick and really start to tool this team around Scottie Barnes. So, plans for 2024, see what you have for the rest of the season. Take care of the contract situations for Barnes and for Immanuel Quickley. Give Barnes his rookie max. Make sure you bring back Immanuel Quickley as a restricted free agent. That's not going to be extremely difficult to do. Figure out the situation with Gary Trent Jr. See if you can capitalize a little bit asset-wise with Bruce Brown before the trade deadline, or just see what you have with him for the rest of the season. But feel it out and start to put the work in place now to rectify the errors of years past. There was at least some sort of assessment that, yes, there have been some errors. They owned up to it a little bit. They kind of pushed back on a bit of it, but at least Masai Ujiri owned up to a little bit of it. You have to start to put things right in 2024 and restore the faith in the organization. We've seen Masai Ujiri start with a relatively new team back when he first joined the Raptors around 2013, but we've never seen him with a blank canvas like this. Is Masai Ujiri the right person in place for a near complete rebuild of an organization? That's what we're going to really start to find out in 2024. I wouldn't say I've completely lost my faith in the organization, but some doubts are starting to creep in. It's time for them to show up and show the fans that they can do this job and reinstill the faith that we once had in Masai Ujiri and his team that's behind him. So what do you make of everything that went on in that press conference? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that's it for me for today. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content, and check out the sportsbook partner of Amateur Sports, the Bet99 Sportsbook, for everyday competitive sports betting odds and periodic Amateur Sports special Bet99 banger bets. Link in the description for that, and I'll see you again next time for another video.